If you love female assassins, vibrant world building with beautiful descriptions, a well-rounded cast, and dark, blood-soaked fantasy, this book is for you. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today I am so excited to be giving you my review of The Assassin of Grins and Secrets by K.E. Andrews. This book is a dark fantasy with a female assassin at its core, and I took a lot of time with this one because I really wanted to slow myself down and really enjoy the descriptions that K.E. Andrews was giving me in this book, and I had a really great time reading it. The basic premise of this book begins with Prince Ramesses going in search of the grinning assassin, this kind of mythical figure that he has never seen and nobody really knows anything about, but he has this lead and he's going to go find her because he needs her help to uncover some plots and manipulation that are going on back in the palace. He is shocked to discover that the grinning assassin is actually a woman who is near death, half starved in the middle of this awful prison. Now, the thing about this book that I want to say right away is that if you are going into this expecting a assassin book where the assassin is just going around stabbing people every midnight, that is not the type of book that this is. Seraine is an assassin, but a lot of the assassinations and the darker part of her history happened prior to this book starting, which I actually found to be a really fresh take on the female assassin trope. The three POVs that we follow during this book are Ramesses the Prince, Seraine, and Ramesses' best friend and bodyguard, Uriah. Uriah does not trust Seraine from the get-go. He is completely convinced that she is a horrible liability, and he's just very cynical about this experience. And honestly, I don't really blame him, because in the beginning of this book, Seraine fits that anti-hero trope to an absolute T. She does not trust anyone, which is understandable, but she is very cynical, she is very dark, and she is very savage. So it makes sense that Uriah is very concerned about the safety of his best friend and prince. This was one of those books, again, where I had a favorite character all the way through, and then one of the other POVs came through at the end, and I realized how much I absolutely loved them. Prince Ramesses is a very interesting character. He's the type of character that I'm not used to seeing in a lot of prince kind of archetypes. He seems worldly at first, but then as you get to know his character a little bit better, you realize just how much of a sweet summer child he is and how optimistic he is about life, and despite all of the things that he's seeing and experiencing, that he still desperately wants to believe that things can change for the better, that this isn't going to end in disaster, and he really has that kind of hopeful attitude towards it. I found myself really loving his character throughout the book, and he added this kind of hopefulness to the dark all around him, and that was something that I really appreciated. The second POV that we follow is Seraine, and she is the female assassin. Seraine is broken. Seraine is somebody who has gone through the worst of the worst of the worst in her life, and she is cynical. She has nothing left to believe in the good of people, and you see that very, very strongly in the first half to 2/3 of this book. And she is convinced that she is going to buckle down, she's going to gain her freedom, and she's going to get out. Seraine comes from an assassin's order that is incredibly dangerous, and she is constantly looking over one shoulder, afraid that someone is coming for her. And there's a great tension in her character throughout the entire book. It's interesting watching her character interactions with Uriah and Ramesses, because it really starts to pull, through the book, we really start to pull her real character out, and it's very interesting to watch that progression. The last POV that we run into in this book is Uriah, and Uriah, bless him, is the cynical bodyguard. He's stoic, he is duty first, he is very justice brained. He is convinced that Seraine is a ticking time bomb, and he is just waiting for her to blow up in all of their faces. He is just waiting for an opportunity to prove to everyone that she is as dangerous as he believes, so that he can get her away from Ramesses for good. Let's talk a little bit about the plot. The plot of this book is very different than what I was expecting. Again, like I mentioned, I went into it kind of expecting the typical female assassin jumping on rooftops and assassinating people at the dark of midnight night. And that's not what this book is. And I actually grew to really appreciate that through the story, because it kind of gave me that same Rurouni Kenshin kind of vibe, where you have this horrible past history and now you have a character who is just focused on, I need to get out, I need to do something else. Sarene is definitely not taking any vows to not kill anymore, and she definitely has a lot of action scenes throughout the book. K.E. Andrews definitely gives us a generous helping of action and fights and things throughout the book. So I appreciated that. But it is really mixed in with a lot of court intrigue. It's mixed in with a little bit of training montage. It's mixed in with a lot of character psyche and building out the deeper motives behind each of the POVs that I mentioned. There was a few parts in the middle that I felt like the book did slow down a little bit more than I would have liked, but that's honestly partially because I'm such a fast-paced reader that anytime a book slows down, I tend to have a little bit of a harder time keeping the momentum going. The end, like the final third of this book, is such a beautiful payoff. I cared so much about seeing these characters get what they were searching for in whatever form that was taking for each of them, and I was really invested in the dynamic between the three of them. I will caveat this to say that this is not a love triangle, which is something that I really appreciated. Having three main characters that are not a love triangle, thank you so much, K.E. Andrews. So if you're looking for an amazing set trio of people that does not involve a love triangle, this is a great book. And that, too, is something that I'm going to mention about this. There really isn't a romantic subplot here. I mean, there's a tiny flicker, sort of, toward the end, but overall, this book is not about that. And I really appreciated that we were given so much more time to delve into the characters outside of that. Now, there may be a romance coming up later on in the series, I don't know. K.E. Andrews has definitely left some doors open, but overall, I really appreciated that we are given time to build with these characters before we're thrown into a romance. Let's talk about writing style. K.E. Andrews, I have read some of her other books. She has a couple of poetry and kind of memoir essay books out, and I can definitely tell that she is a poet based on her novel writing style. She writes in a way that is very lyrical, it's very colorful, very vibrant. She uses a lot of poetic words to describe the world building, the interior psyche of the characters, and that is really beautiful to read. Sarene also has chromesthesia, which is a condition in which she sees color with sound. So anytime there's so for an example, Prince Ramesses wears these little bell earrings on his ears, and every time he comes into her room, she hears these little chimes, and she associates the color peach with them. And at the beginning, it took a little bit for me to get used to. I have a form of synesthesia where I associate certain colors with certain people. So that kind of a concept wasn't foreign to me, but it was something like imagining seeing color with all of the sounds we hear in life. By the end of the story, it was really cool to have immersed in that enough that it just felt like a natural character element that I had gotten used to, and I was starting to see the world through Sarene's eyes. Another thing that I will mention in the writing style is K.E. Andrews does a great job with witty banter between the three main characters. It walks that fine line between cheeky and cheesy, and she manages to stay on the right side of that line, and I appreciated so much of the dialogue. There's a lot of snarky, sassy female assassinness in this, and the banter between her and Ramesses was completely different than the banter between her and Uriah and the banter between Uriah and Ramesses, and it was really cool how she was able to showcase the relationships between those characters through their dialogue. I always love reading books that showcase influence from different cultures around the world. This book definitely has a Middle Eastern kind of flavor to it, but done in a way that really kind of celebrates something very different in fantasy from what I'm used to reading, and I really appreciated that. Some of the colors, the sounds, the smells, the the things that they eat. There's a lot for you foodies out there. There's an amazing amount of detail in food in this book, and there were so many moments where my mouth was watering and I just desperately wanted to eat what they were eating. It was so cool to read a book that had that kind of Middle Eastern flavor paired with a fantasy world. I really appreciated that, really enjoyed that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much my review of it. If you want to read my full Goodreads review, I will link that down in the comments below. I also want to show off a little bit of this cover. It is, let's see if I can, there we go. Let's just look at this gorgeous cover. Okay, and what I love about this is the hardcover edition of this book, and I have shown it off on my channel before, but every inch of this book is designed and it is just beautiful. I love the map of this book is stunning. There's an awesome glossary of all the terms in the beginning. It's just such a beautifully put together book as far as the just visual design of it. I absolutely loved it. So that is it for me. I hope you guys are having a fabulous week. I hope you are reading 5-star reads, and I will see you in the next video.